Hello, welcome to the British Bookworm. Join me on a journey towards 1,000 books as I review each one. What I learned, what I thought, whether I would recommend it and why, plus my main takeaways. One of my closest friends suggested we pick 3 books each and number each one from 1 to 6. Throw a dice and then both read the book the number lands on. After we have read each one, we would then have a discussion about it at the end of that month. So this is our first one for February that's just gone. So this book review, The Return of the God Hypothesis by Stephen is our book. The Return of the God Hypothesis is not an easy read. At times I felt like my brain was being sucked into the black hole created on a cheese grater slowly. My conscious reality being sucked piece by piece into a black hole. After a long day at work, coming home to read a book on the theory of creation while half asleep was a challenge. I'll be honest that if my friend wasn't reading it, I may have put it down to gather dust to come back to it another time. However, after completing it, I am glad I completed it. It was fascinating, mentally stretching, tasking, while opening my conscience on the latest concepts of creation. Stephen Meyer is a very likeable guy. I bought this book about a year ago, but delayed reading it because I knew it was going to be a challenge. I have listened to quite a few long-form interviews with Stephen Meyer. He's a brilliant speaker with an amazing grasp of the scientific theories, a PhD in the philosophy of science from Cambridge, a geophysicist. He's an intellectual heavyweight. So let's try to start. The Big Bang was named such as more of an insult by a leading scientist due to the implications of evidence that the universe had a beginning rather than the initial steady-state universe. That is, it's always existed. Even Albert Einstein admitted that ignoring the theory of the expanding universe was his biggest error of his career. Many scientists hated it, for the possible implications were great. If the universe had a beginning, then the implications were that there had to be a cause. Not only this, but if the universe was expanding, was from an initial point of expansion, the so-called singularity. Here is where your brain melts properly. Remember the last time you looked up at a starry night sky in awe at the size and scale of our own galaxy. A galaxy said to have 100 billion stars like our own sun. When you last saw pictures from the Hubble telescope of other galaxies and found the distances incomprehensible, the size of the Earth against Jupiter or Saturn, the difference in scale between the mountains on Earth to the mountains on Mars. A light year is 6 trillion miles. The nearest star is 4.25 light years away. The universe 13.8 billion years in age. Now think of a single full stop. After every sentence you write, you end the sentence with a little dot of the pen. In science classes, they teach that the whole universe expanded from a spot many times smaller than a single full stop. From nothing came everything, without a cause or purpose. One moment there was nothing, then in less than a second, the process for all creation was triggered. Now that fact alone is mind-bending enough. It took me years after learning it to try to get my head around it, as a concept, as if it was real. Well, that's just the beginning. This book covers 3 major concepts or discoveries in the science that individually are incomprehensible. Now, before I carry on, I must state that I love science. I have huge respect for the highly intellectually gifted that dwarf my mental capacity. There are true giants who have grown mankind's knowledge through incredible commitment and dedicated passion of a topic they are devoted to, and they are heroes to me. For this book review, I am not able to go through much at all covered in the pages. Here I'm going to just link many of the interviews I have watched this February as well as in the past. Please watch a few. Today, we are often told that if you believe in God, that you are anti-science and have given away your intellectual faculties to blind faith. It's become so pervasive in the Western world from celebrity scientists and mainstream media that it's seen as the default. Regardless, there's something like 80% of the world population believe in a God. What Stephen highlights is that the early greats of science believed in God or a God. It was that faith that led them onto scientific discovery. It was their faith that inspired their intellectual search. Sir Isaac Newton, one of the greatest minds to have ever lived, being one example. So never believe anyone who states that if you believe in God that you are stupid or foolish. That's actually a terrible lie, a huge fallacy. It's quite disgusting, a disgusting thing to teach our children, actually. He discusses the break between belief and science and how it became a split in human conscience. So we have a beginning, we have an expanding universe, we then come to the cosmological constant, one of the fine-tuned constants that is set to such a fine degree that it's even more incomprehensible than something from nothing or a universe from a period full stop. If the cosmological constant was set ever so slightly too high, the gravitational forces would have collapsed the universe back in on itself, meaning no universe. If it was ever so slightly set the other way, the stars wouldn't have formed, particles wouldn't have come together, and we would have empty space. Stephen states the cosmological constant is set to 1 part to the 90th power. You'll have to look into how ridiculous that is. He states that our universe, to be set to this degree, would be equivalent of a person who could travel instantly anywhere in our galaxy. This person is blindfolded. They have one move. They have to find one particle that's been specifically marked and prick it with a needle in one turn. In all the particles in the galaxy, they move once blindfolded to land their needle on the marked particle. Now that's a mind bend, isn't it? We have multiple fine-tuning constants that, in my opinion, stretch the credulity of existence being by accident into the upper heavens. It's absolutely ridiculous when you discover to what degree these constants have been tuned to. You have to look deeper into them to understand this if it's new to you. Then we step into the world of DNA. Here we hear about what many feel is equivalent to advanced computer program for cellular life. Again, the numbers are utterly incomprehensible. Apparently, materialist science attempts to claim that chemistry brings into state the coding of DNA, possibly from RNA, to create the coding for proteins and cellular information. Meyer stresses that modern science, has discovered that DNA coding cannot generate the code in an accidental pattern. The statistical tuning is so great that it would have to have 4 digits times 150 segments of the smallest amino chain, all to land perfectly to create the instruction for that amino acid. As you work through the major points of the return of the God hypothesis, you get lost in scientific terminology to be saved by great analogies and images that enlighten the concepts. It's his ability to break down the topic into manageable images that saves a book. Without it, I believe most will get lost and not finish this book. One of the things that stood out to me throughout is the never-ending arrogance of humans' intellectual elite. I felt that throughout this book that those great minds featured in this story go to the nth degree within science to avoid a face-to-face encounter with their maker, God. You get the impression that the scientific community, by and large, will do anything to avoid the simpler option of a creator. And it is the simpler option. At times I found his descriptions and wording, technical terminology and protracted descriptions too much. Yet it was saved by his tone, which is the hallmark of a great communicator. The evolution of science is fascinating, incredible, but man's hubris is always there, especially within the elite who are working on areas that even their own peers struggle to follow, never mind the ordinary man. However, we are all blessed with an innate instinct to feel things like the resonance of truth, to which science again cannot explain. Can science really explain our ability to tune in to the finest feelings other than the survival mechanism? I don't think so. One thing is certain that we can all agree on, whether a materialist or a theist, is that the event triggered existence was a miracle. Like John Lennox, the brilliant theist mathematician, states, they want to believe in one miracle as if there's nothing to see here. Ridiculous. Life is incredibly precious. Sometimes it makes me incredibly emotional how precious. Not only are we incredibly lucky to be born, but life itself is a wonder. Sometimes we get lost too much in the abstract, too lost in opinion, in the theory and thought, while all along that in deep reflection we actually miss out on life that is passing us quite literally. Every day is a blessing. Each day its last. I think we forget how precarious our own existence is as we get lost on debate and opinions. It is an important book. I will definitely read his others at some point. In all my personal searching for truth, one of the things I know is an absolute fact. One thing I don't need another opinion on. We all are very limited. No matter how much we think of ourselves or how intellectual, wise, studied we are, there is more to make us humble than hubris. I know how little I know. Honestly, I've dedicated my life for 25 years in learning now, but one thing I accept is how little I know. It's like scooping the ocean up with your hands into a bucket with holes in it. It keeps you incredibly humble. To the scientific community out there, I believe you need to be far more humble in your search. Start making claims that are far-fetched in the extreme. If you don't know, just say as much and don't hide behind maths as if that's your answer. Humans get far too carried away with themselves. I feel this is what stands out from reading this book. It's as though we make theories our new gods. One minute they are setting man-made intellectual borders and rules to make the maths work. Then they retract the boundaries or borders to which undermines the very reality of conscious thought. Which is it? Look up the universe constants to see how far-fetched accidental creation sounds. If a million monkeys are left to type for an infinite period of time, they may be eventually able to type Hamlet out, and then again, the point is missed. Who made the typewriter? I highly recommend this book if you want a challenge and brain expansion. It gets a 3 out of 5 from myself. Please give me a like, subscribe, comment. More importantly, thank you for giving me your most precious gift, your time. Peace and love. Until next time, be the best you can be. Thank you.